Hey everyone, this is Christopher Luxon, the former CEO of Air New Zealand.
This is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
This is Tracy Ibarra. I'm in Executive Solutions at Dell Technologies.
This is Travis Chappell, founder of Build Your Network. If you are wanting to learn how to embrace change,
To navigate through disruption as a leader,
Then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast.
The Leadership is Changing podcast.
the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend,
my very good friend, Denis Giannoutsos.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsos.
Hey, welcome to the show. Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Our listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to today's episode, which is an Ask Denis, which is a freestyle episode. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners or share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. So team, welcome to today's session. This is awesome, and I'm going to be sharing some things with you. But first of all, Facebook, LinkedIn, those two platforms, if you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, go ahead and do that. We'd love to see you join those communities in relation to Leadership is Changing. So today's session is the mid-year review. Now, of course, we've finished the first half of this year, and we're about to start the second half of the year. Now that it's complete, it's time for us to do a review of the year. You see, many games, many races have been won in the second half. For you, it may not have gone too well in the first half. For you, you may be sort of anxious or upset or disappointed in the first half. For you, you may be very excited about what's happened for you in the first half. And so whatever it is for you, it's about where we're going next. Because you see, the halftime whistle, if I use the analogy of a game, has blown. And now it's time for you to go into the changing room. It's time for you now to take some time out to review the game or the first half of the game. It's time for you to strategize your game plan for the second half of the game or the year. And it's time to go out and play your game. Embracing it is number 4, whereby this is your year, team. This is your year. It is now for you to go out and embrace it and move forward. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive in those 4 different areas, team. And I'm going to encourage you to take notes. I tell you what, when I work with leaders around the world, it's really important that we think about things because, see, at the end of the day, whether you're a leader of an organization or a team, whether you're a leader of your own business, whether you're a leader of yourself, the same things can be looked at. So let's talk about the first part here, which is time for you to do a review on the first half. Here's a question for you, and there's a few questions I'm going to ask. Number 1 would be, what 5 things did you accomplish throughout the first half? So what are 5 things that you've accomplished in the first half? What went well for you? And then the third part of that portion would be, what will you do now to celebrate your success or reaching some of those 5 accomplishments that you did in the first half? So how will you celebrate that? The next big piece in this area here would be, what did you fail to take accountability of? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's certain things that you've actually committed to doing. There's certain things that you've actually said that you wanted to do in the first half. But did you take accountability for it? Were you accountable to yourself and others in making it happen? What did you learn from that whole process or that journey in the first half? Because you see, that's going to create a foundation for you to start learning and then building on that, of course, and that's what's really quite good. It doesn't need to be a reason to stop you. if things didn't go too well, or you haven't been holding yourself accountable in those different areas, that's not the reason for you to stop. That's the reason for you now to start to pick things up and move forward. And so the question is, how were you accountable for the first half of the year? And how did you show up as a leader in the first half of the year? Because you see, for a lot of people, they look at the goals, they look at the things that they accomplished. But the question I've got for you is, you as a leader, how did you show up in the first half of the year? So that's the review. The review was, well, the 5 things you did that you accomplished in the first half, how did they go well? And how are you going to celebrate? And what did you fail to take accountability of? What did you learn from it? And how were you accountable in the first half of the year? And of course, how did you show up as a leader? So that's number 1, around the review. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is around the strategic game plan. This is for the second half. This is really going to be set on based on what went well or what didn't go well for you. So the question here is, what will you do now going forward? Second question around this area would be, what is one thing that you'll do differently going forward? Based on the lessons, based on what went well and what didn't go well, what is one thing you would do, or some things that you would do differently going forward? And the question I've got for you now is, if we talked about the 5 things that you accomplished in the first half of the year, and the second half of the year, what are 5 things that you want to be accountable for? So what are 5 things that you want to be accountable for? Is it your fitness? Is it some rituals that you do, like getting up at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, going to bed early? Is it your relationships? Is it your debt that you have? Is it eating healthy? Is it getting enough sleep? They're just some examples of 5 things that you're going to hold yourself accountable in the second half of the year. So number 2 was around strategizing the game plan. In other words, what you're going to do in the second half of this year. And it's based on what went well, what didn't go well, but what will you do going forward? What will you do differently going forward? And what are the 5 things you want to be accountable for in the second half of the year? Number 3, the third big area, is go out and play your game. Too many people are out there playing somebody else's game. So many people are out there trying to please others. I'm here to tell you that you need to look after yourself. You need to make sure that you're playing your game. That's going to help you. It's going to help the team. It's going to help the organization. I don't mean you going out and playing into a silo if you're a large organization. I don't mean you play in a silo in the industry. You need to have and work with other people in other areas, which is great. But team, execute on your strategy, on your game plan. Take ownership of your game plan. And the third piece in this would be drive hard. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I've had a few people lately saying, this is where I'm at. What do you think I should do? And this is my comment. Put your foot on the accelerator and go. And they go, what? I go, put your foot on the accelerator and go. I know you've already been driving hard and I know you've already been doing a lot of stuff, but for a lot of these things here, it's a numbers game and you need to keep going. And it's amazing when you do keep going and you don't lose that momentum. You keep going and you keep going and you keep going and you put the foot on the accelerator. It's amazing what kind of results you'll get. It doesn't mean it'll arrive within 2 minutes or 5 minutes, but it might mean that you need to keep going and putting your foot on the accelerator to make things happen in the future. This is also, and it's a very good time to understand your why. Why are you doing all of this? Because you see, it's going to get hard for some of you. You're going to have to dig deep. But if you understand your why and you understand where you're going and why you're doing this, then that's going to really help you. So number 3 is go out and play your game. Execute on the strategy or the game plan. Take ownership of your plan, of your game plan. Drive hard, put the foot on the accelerator, and then understand your why you're doing this, which is really going to help you. The fourth main area is really bringing it all together, and that this is your year, team. Some of you have had a hard first half. Some of you have had a great first half. Some of you have had a good first half. But it's now taking it to another level. It's about taking you where you are and inspiring you to step up and do some other things. It is now time for you to put your foot on that accelerator. It's time for you now to own the second half and get on with it. And this is where you need to embrace it. This is where you need to be the high performer that can actually take your team, yourself, your organization to where they deserve to be. So your team and your organization deserve to have some success. They deserve great leadership. But it's now time for you to step up, team. It's now time for you to embrace it and move forward. Bring this year home strong. And I know there's 6 months to go, but it starts now. Because you see, it starts with the mindset. It starts with the mindset, the thinking, and then the actions to bring it all together. I just know that a lot of you out there today, you can go out there and do a whole lot of stuff. Recently, I put a quote up there about, people don't like getting out of their comfort zone. But my role as an executive coach, facilitator, is actually to take people and stretch them to be the best that they can be. And when they're outside their comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. Just imagine where you can be at the end of this year. What are you going to do to make that happen? Team, if you haven't already joined us on the Facebook or the LinkedIn group or page, please come along and do that. What I'd love you to do is to take this episode, because you see there's so many people in the world. We're all facing right now that we've just finished the first half of the year. We're at the mid-year. A lot of people need to do a review. Share this episode with 3 other people that you know. Go and give it to them as a gift to add value to them. Post it on your LinkedIn or your Facebook page or groups or whatever you've got on your profile. Get this out to other people and get them to embrace the second half of the year as well. Team, I just got to say this to you. It's a real pleasure to see where some of you are gone in the first half of the year, but I'm so excited about to see where you're going to be in the second half of the year. If there's anything I can do to help you in relation to this, feel free to reach out to me, because I know some of you are going to do so well and you're going to go onto new levels, which is so exciting. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant, and change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and the unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released, download them, have a listen, put a review and a rating, and as I said before, share them with 3 other friends as well. If there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question you have for me for my guests as I interview them, or if you have a question for the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, feel free to send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey team, it's always a pleasure having you with us on the show here. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.